Shit. Move. Ugh.
Meeting to order, we all stand for the pledge of allegiance and then for the opening prayer by Pastor Franz. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we are so thankful, Lord, for the privilege and the opportunity to live in the wonderful village of Blissfield. And Lord, we thank you for these that are here that represent the leadership in our community. We just pray that you would just bless them, guide them, especially help as they will go through their business tonight. Give them wisdom as decisions are made. And Lord, we just pray your great blessing continuing upon our community. And we ask this in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Franz. And Lisa, you want to go ahead with roll call, please?
Ian Gregson, Mendoza,
Here.
Bill Grusmaker,
Here.
Mike Gunner,
Here.
Jerry Hayes,
Here.
Eric Rogers,
Here.
Lucy Waters.
Present.
Thank you, Lisa. Looking for a motion for the minutes from the February 12th meeting, please.
Motion to approve the minutes of February 12, 2024 as presented.
Support.
Any questions or comments to the minutes from February 12th? Seeing none, Lisa, please.
Eric,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Gwen.
Yes. Presentations and communications, Danielle, I don't see anything. Is there anything in particular that you would have? No. Thank you. Items on the agenda, looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented. Support.
We have a motion to approve and support. Any comments on that, please? Seeing none, Lisa?
Mike,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Gwen.
Yes. Brings us to public comment. Is there anyone who would like to say anything at this particular time regarding on the agenda or not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and council go down to unfinished business. Is there anyone who has something that they would like to address at this time? Seeing none, we'll go on to new business. Danielle, would you like to lead this, please, for action item number 1?
I actually, for action item number 1, we'll turn it over to Dave. I don't have too much information other than what's been provided to you guys.
Okay.
Yes, I was contacted by Mr. Jim Fleming, who is the attorney for the Lally Group PC. Some of you will most likely remember, they performed some auditing. They're an accountant firm that performed some auditing for the village back in around 2016, 17, 18, somewhere in there. This was before I was affiliated with the village, so I was not involved in this directly. However, they were issued a subpoena in the embezzlement case from the defense attorney. And the letter provide what was
Zoom.
requested.
Well, they vote now.
That was included in your packet.
Just haven't watched one for.
As Mr. Fleming states in his letter, they were willing to produce the documents that were provided to council, to this council during a public hearing. Those are public documents and are discoverable and producible. However, some of the other documents that were provided pursuant to, that were not provided publicly, those are, according to Mr. Fleming, are covered under client accountant privilege pursuant to the statute MCL 339.732. Again, that Mr. Fleming details in his letter. So he asked me about that, and my advice to him is that in order for the village to waive the privilege, they were not going to produce any of those non-public documents without the village waiving the privilege. And my advice to him was that please provide your request in writing, which is the letter that you received. And I said that is going to have to be a decision by the council as a whole. If the council decides to waive that privilege, then that's a decision that the council will have to vote on, and then we can communicate that to Mr. Fleming to have the Lally Group produce the non-public information. But that requires a decision of this council. That's certainly not anything that any of us individually can do. Danielle certainly can't, I can't. No one individually can. It's got to be a collective decision of this council. So that's the reason why this is being brought to you, to make that decision, and that's and for your request.
Do you know what type of documents those may be then, Dave?
Other than just what Mr. Fleming put in, they're probably, and again, I've never seen any of these documents. I wasn't here, so I don't know what all they entail. I know that there were a number of audits going on around this time of the village's accounting practices and the accounts. Again, there's probably people here that are more familiar with the scope of that than me. But what I would imagine a lot of these types of documents are going to be a lot of work product, a lot of the background information that went into producing those public reports. So those are probably, it's all the background information and notes that individual auditors would have taken that went into producing those. But again, that's just my supposition about what the scope of that is. The subpoena request is broad.
Right.
It's any and all reports, documents, accounting regarding the village of Blissfield. So it is a broad request. And obviously there is enough there that it warranted Mr. Fleming to reach out to see if this is something, the village wanted to disclose.
Would that also include emails between the auditing firm as to the administrator at that time? Again, very broad stroke.
It could be. It could also mean communications, but it says all documents regarding the village of Blissfield, and if there are communications that would fall under the definition of documents, I would imagine that would be included. But again, that's up to the Lally Group to gather that information and produce whatever it is that they have. But there could be communications in there, yes.
Anyone have questions for Dave at this time?
Would that include like any
notes or information that they kept during the process as they went through the audit. Any notes that they may have kept as on an individual basis, depending on who was doing the auditing or their team of auditors.
If they kept those kinds of notes as they kind of went through the accounts, so that then they then could create the reports, those public reports and summaries that were provided to council. I'm sure there would have been notes taken by individual accountants and auditors, so that they could then produce those reports. I would imagine so.
So they're asking for a very broad, basically, they're asking for anything related to that audit when it was done.
Anything having to do with the Lally Group's work regarding the accounting of the village of Blissfield. It's a very broad request.
Did they make that same request of any of the other audits?
I don't know.
I can, we did receive as the village a similar request back in, I think it was June of last year. I
That
don't
came
remember.
directly to us though, didn't it?
I shared that with you guys back then. I should have pulled the exact, I saved the documents, for that request, and I saved the paperwork, the hard copies. I could go get it if you need me to, but I believe the wording was very similar. And it was in reference to the Lally Group, and we provided all of the documents that we had.
That's true. I remember that. I remember that now.
I was just wondering if they requested anything from the other auditors that we've had over the years. Because as I understand it, the Lally Group was only part of the audit during the fiscal years 2017, but not all of 2017.
Yeah, so there was, according to the record, and this is before me either, so.
Right.
According to what we paid in the records that I was able to pull from looking at our auditors. Lally Group was here for 1 year, it was for fiscal year 16, ending in 17. However, the village also paid Raymond for that same time frame. I don't know if they both did full, if they overlapped, I'm not sure the dynamic of that, but I do know that 2 auditors were paid for the same time period.
For the sake of transparency, which means not having anything to hide, I am persuaded that we should waive the accountant-client privilege. If council denies the waiver, it will appear we are hiding information. In waiving the accountant-client privilege, it would strengthen the village's position in the embezzlement case. So I'd like to make a motion that council waives the accountant-client privilege pursuant to MCL 339.732 in the People versus Holly Sue Kester, the embezzlement case.
So that would be your motion. I'm gonna pause right here for just a brief moment.
I'll support that.
No, I'd like to pause for just a brief
You've got
moment.
a motion on the floor, you have to entertain the motion.
Okay, well, thank you.
You have to entertain the motion.
I do, and I was just going to pause for a brief moment. For the sake of voting, I am not sure it is appropriate that Mike is a participant in the voting on this particular action item.
What's the justification for that?
He is related to the person, to the defendant, to the accused. And I believe, and I'm asking, in my opinion, and Dave, can you clarify this? Is this an act of inappropriateness? Is this appropriate? I'd like to have some council discussion on that before we would perform a vote.
If a particular member of council feels that that there is a conflict of interest in voting on any matter, or if they deem it an appearance of a conflict, that individual council member can voluntarily recuse themselves from participating and voting on that particular item. council can request that individual to recuse. However, it is up to that individual council member to decide to recuse themselves from voting on any particular matter. So it is, the council or members of the council can make the request and state their reasons for it. But ultimately, it is the purview of each individual council member to make that decision for themselves.
With that being said, I then recommend that Mike recuse himself from this topic, discussion on this article.
Well, this is only releasing information. It's not making a decision on any, whether there's guilt or not guilt. It's just releasing documents. So I wouldn't be in favor of that.
Would anyone else like to comment at this time?
My reasons are that I do think that it's a conflict of interest in this matter.
Conflict of interest really isn't by law and reason, not to vote would be more of a financial stake. I mean, this stuff has been written and litigated and decided. I mean, if we can list the 3 reasons of why somebody wouldn't be allowed to vote, in, I guess, perception of conflict of interest or financial gain, whatever with that. And I do respect, you know, fellow council members' opinions on that. I'll go ahead and file it in my circular file, though. I think being transparent and open as a council, if we, the village, are the quote victim in this situation, and the taxpayers are the victim in the situation, I don't think we, much like Tim alluded to, have anything to hide. What's going on is the defendant's attorney is requesting information provided by a village council, which was contracted by council and administration at that time in order to do some cleaning of the books.
I don't think that's what,
That's absolutely what this is. This is what this information is. This is Lally.
I don't think that's what he is saying.
Let me explain myself.
At least that's not my take on it.
Okay.
I was not trying to imply that we should not be transparent. My only concern is the relationship that you have with the defendant.
Absolutely. And I can understand that, but I also think I've done a good job of the 20-some years that I've sat up here, knowing when to wear my council hat, when to wear my village hat, when to wear my DDA board member hat, when to wear my taxpayer hat, and I will continue to do that as long as I am up here. Again, you can request, and rightfully so, all you want. I understand that and I understand the request, but again, we're the quote, the village, the victims, the taxpayer. We have nothing to hide. We should be able to provide any sort of information that the defense requests. On top of that, going back and looking at the information that we did receive from the Lally Group, it seemed to be 3 documents is all I've seen. I don't know if there are more in-house things that we weren't privy to as council at that time. But we received those in March of 2018, back when we were trying to help the previous treasurer get caught up on some of the misfortune, I guess, I would maintain or describe it as, or mistakes that were made. So this is, I guess, earlier on than it sounds like what the issue is regarding that case. So, again, if you know, my take on it, this isn't an audit. This was bookkeeping. This is recommendations by CPA's information that we should be doing better in-house to balance our books better and help the treasurer at that time. I have nothing to hide.
This information that they're requesting, though, is not information that we currently have in any of our documentation here.
We should. It was provided to us. We contracted.
do
for the
have-
information.
But they may not have, we wouldn't have their
We wouldn't
internal
have-
notes that they.
Correct. But we did provide more than 3 documents in our subpoena request. And so some of those may be duplicates. We do not know what they have that has not yet been provided. Nobody has seen that because at this point, they've not released it.
Well, I understand the being transparent part of it, but I also feel that the accountant-client privilege is something that I don't feel it's something that we should breach. That's just my opinion. To me, it's somewhat the similar, or almost the same, or exactly the same, however you want to interpret it, as the attorney-client privilege. And that sacred part that is there between an attorney and a client, that doesn't get broken.
For what reason would we now want to let the public be privy to the financial statements audits of the village?
I don't have a problem with the financial statements or the audits. What I would be concerned with would be any conversations that any of the internal or any of the auditors or auditing team may have had between themselves to come to the conclusions that they did in the final audit. Whether it's a conversation about their
This
practices.
was not an audit though. Again, this information, we didn't pay for an audit. We paid for recommendations on how to, again, properly have the treasurer properly do her job at the time. That is what was paid for by the bill. That is, again, we can sugarcoat it, that things were cleaned up. These things were cleaned up by us contracting services through many different,
Through Raymond, I believe.
through a couple different firms, CPAs, they clean up the books in the past. And I'm not sure that that's gonna fly. The attorney-client privilege is a little bit different than something, again, that's paid for with taxpayer funding. I think they could probably litigate that to an extent that that's, if you read 339.732, it's in talking about, if the CPA is potentially incompetent. It's talking about, just read through it. I'm not sure that that's going to justify if they really did try to fight that. We could try to fight that, but again, what do we have to hide as the village if based on Treasurer Hudson's history and recommendations, and based on the state police's investigations, and based on Plant Moran's forensic audits. I guess continuing on to the prosecutor, what would we not want to get out there that could jeopardize such a strong case? Or are we hiding something?
That's an unknown. We don't know. We don't know what's there because we haven't seen what's there. That's.
I don't know if you want my zone on, but I don't think.
Did you know what on council during this time, Mike?
I believe.
I had just got on board, I believe, after, when Freeman was hired as the, for lack of better words, the cleanup. To revisit some of the.
Yeah, most of those documents were produced March 5th of 2018.
Well, I look at it as an opportunity for us to see what is there.
Jerry, would you like to weigh in on your thought?
Well, I think Mike has a duty to vote on this. I don't think just because it's been mentioned that he should abstain for conflict of interest, nobody's pointed out according to state law or any suggestions by MML besides conflict of interest, why he should abstain.
Well,
They've been provided with the financial statements, the audit report, and the governance letter that was dated March 5th of 18. the auditor's report and the internal controls dated March the 5th of 18. They're asking for any other documents. They're asking for us to waive any other documents its accountant-client privilege provides. MCL 339.3752. I guess that's where I have just a little bit of a concern, because we don't know what those documents are either. Not that we're trying intentionally hide anything, but we don't know what those are either.
And again, this is a municipality, this is a public entity, it's not a private entity, it's not a private corporation. Most anything, for the most part, can be FOIA'd at somebody's request. And again, that's what the whole transparency reasoning and that, and why people are frustrated with government, is because that information's out there or not out there. You know, if we're looking to provide a fair and honest and open trial, then any information that is relevant to that trial should be able to be put out there. And good, bad, ugly, guilty, innocent, whatever, I want the truth, and that's what I'm gonna go for. You know, if you wanna really get in the nuts and bolts of it, yes, she is my sister, she is a relative. But you know what, I've worn my counsel hat, and I'm continuing to wear my counsel hat, and I'm trying to stay back from the situation as much as possible. That being said, I'll always love my sister regardless, but I also want the truth to get out there. I want a fair trial, and I want what's best. Again, I've sat up here and I've done this for 20 some years, and I've always tried to do what's best in the interest of the village and the taxpayer. And good, bad, ugly, I'll accept however we continue with it.
When Holly hired on Mike, did you vote at that particular time, or did you recuse yourself when she was hired on?
That one's hard to remember. I don't remember. It was 2014.
You've stated before that you've recused yourself, and that's why my
Yeah,
assumption is you recused yourself. So my
no, I
assumption
don't think I've recused myself from.
from her hiring, I thought
To be honest with you, I don't remember. I don't remember.
I thought you had stated that before. That's why I asked. Because you had stated it, I thought before that you had recused yourself from that situation. So since this, in my opinion, goes along with the court case, that's why my assumption was if you recused yourself before for being her brother, that you would recuse yourself at this particular point on this issue. So that's where my stance is coming from.
Yeah, I get your point there, because again, you know, we've got this whole nepotism thing, and we're trying to clean up
We
policy
tried very hard
procedures.
not
And
to
we've
do that.
got
And that-
family members applying for
Well-
specific jobs in this field right now, if you want to really get into the nitty gritty of this stuff. So let's call it for what it is. That back when she was hired, she was sought out by the Blissfield State Bank from United Bank and Trust. She was sought out from Blissfield State Bank by Mr. Wanacott at the time. I had nothing to do with that. That was beyond me. I didn't know about that. So again, you know, I get it's a small town and people know everybody and everybody's kind of related to an extent. It is what it is, but I will continue to wear my counsel hat, because that is what I pride myself on, and I know how to separate family versus village.
You can see how this could be misconstrued as well, I'm sure.
Absolutely,
And
but I
that's-
think it's a weak argument to say that we shouldn't provide any specific evidence requested by a defense
And that,
to have an open and honest.
for me, that's
Right.
not where my discussion, it's not the, personally, I agree with what Tim had stated. I think,
Then why are we sitting here arguing? I need help
I don't think,
releasing any of this information.
I don't think we're arguing, number one. I think we're having a good discussion, but I do concern as Bill does, the conflict of interest. Meaning this, that, okay, it could be seen on, let's flip the coin over. It could be seen as Mike Gunter did vote on this, and he wanted to go ahead and have this open for whatever reason. Someone could say something about that as well.
And they can question me on it, and they have every right to.
Yes,
And the
and
podium's
it
right
could be
there.
perceived as Mike Gunter is trying to help his sister. So that's why I'm saying, if you are.
If I was here to help my sister, I would have asked a lot more questions as
But
a
if you-
council member
but
like the
you-
rest of us
but if
should have
you-
regarding this entire process. Okay, I've stayed very back, very neutral to this. I've played my part. I'm wearing my council hat, and I will continue to do so. The right interest of the village, quote, the victim, should be able to release any information to make us a fair trial.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm disagreeing with you not recusing yourself. That's where I'm having my difficulty with. Because if you were to, just listen, hear me out. If you recused yourself, then there would be no perception made good or bad. That's where I'm looking at that as. That's how I'm viewing it. And that's why I'm stating that.
I have a question for David. So if we release this or give you approval to release this information, can the prosecution, will they also have access to it? Do they have to share that information?
Yeah, that's gotta be shared back and forth.
Correct. So it could help the prosecution too.
Whatever the information is, whatever purpose it serves. I know in my experience of being a lawyer, both sides think that information helps them. Just a matter of how it's presented and how good they are at presenting it, but you know, I don't know what this information is and you know,
It seems like this information would have been requested prior to this time.
It was last summer.
What did we give them then? We had.
well, no, wait, let me clarify something. There were certain documents that were requested of the village. The village produced everything the village had that was responsive to the subpoena.
Right.
This is information that the village does not possess, that is not public record, that is not something that even would be subject to FOIA, because it's not a public record. And it's not a document that the village possesses. This is something that a professional that the village counseled with, it's their work product that went into, and all the documents that are related to it. It's their work product that was used to formulate and compose the various audit reports and recommendations that were presented to council in 2017 and 2018. So they have these reports that are mentioned in the letter because we produced them, because we had them, and they were asked for last summer. So their subpoena to the Lally Group, excuse me, is all the supporting documents that went, and the background documents that went into the creation of those reports.
Does that clarify, Jerry, for you?
Which are non-FOIAble.
No, none of those are for you, because they are not village documents. They're not possessed by the village. They're no more subject to FOIA than when I do work on behalf of the village. And I have lots of notes and drafts of things that I write on behalf of the village that is not FOIAble. It's my work product of how I do my job to present to present my information to the village. So in a very similar way, though, you know, Mike, you're right, the scope of the privilege is a little different between accountant and attorney, but from this standpoint, they are exactly the same, is that the privilege is held by the client, the privilege is not held by the professional. So absent permission from the client, that privileged and confidential information cannot be disclosed. So that's where, you know, that's this information.
Are you allowed, Dave, to provide a recommendation to the council? Are you?
Not without knowing what's there. I mean, we could request a complete copy of it, of everything that they have. I'm sure that will not be done for free. But that's, and you know, this is all gonna have to be paid, you know, the defense, if we permit this information to be disclosed, the Lally Group is going to charge for this. They're committed to. But I don't know whether there's any information there that would be harmful or helpful to either side. It is, by its very nature, it is just confidential information that's privileged that they keep in confidence absent permission from the village to disclose it. So I can't tell you one way or the other what would be the best thing to do, because it's, you know, again, I'm not involved in the prosecution. I don't, you know.
Nor is council, really, or the village.
Well,
We have no-
yeah, only, I'm involved the same as you are, is I'm a representative of the village, you all are representatives of the village. And, you know, the prosecution of this case, lies solely with the Lebanon County Prosecutor's Office and the state police.
Well, there is a motion on the floor. There is a support. Does anyone have any other comments that they would like to address at this time? Danielle, please.
I would just like to confirm the motion. If you don't mind, just to make sure Lisa and I have it corrected. I have moved to waive the accountant, client privilege between the Village of Blissfield and the Lally Group pursuant to MCL 3397.732. Did I miss something? I feel like I did.
Yeah, that's not how I worded it. It's pretty close, but,
Are you good with that motion or do I need to change
well, let
it?
me just read what I have here.
Okay,
I'll make a motion that council waives the accountant-client privilege pursuant to MCL 339.732 in the People versus Holly Sue Kester investment case. That's it, too fast for you.
nope, you're good.
Maybe if you have that in writing, maybe that could be, maybe that could be provided so that we make sure we have the motion clearly in the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I have it now. Move to waive the accountant client privilege pursuant to MCL 339.732 and the People versus Holly Sue Kester case.
Yeah, that's my case. Yeah, that's my case, yeah. Definitely have it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just didn't want to get it wrong.
Thank you.
Now, I guess before we go, sorry, let's go back to reasons not to, or reasons to abstain. Again, we've discussed this in the past, Dave, but let's go back and talk about reasonings. There's monetary, what are the other two? I don't have them in front of me, but I mean, there's
monetary, you know, obviously there are, there's monetary conflict. There could be just, there can be, one of the reasons could be an appearance of a conflict. And I think that's probably the one that would be the one that would be most applicable if there was one. Only from the standpoint of, you know, this is, you know, I don't know that there's necessarily a pecuniary conflict here. I don't, the only conflict that there would be, one to really discuss, and again, it's Mike, it's solely for you to decide as the council member, is whether, based on, what could be the appearance of a conflict, whether you believe that it would be, appropriate for you not to participate in this vote. And this is, and that doesn't have anything to do with whether the vote should happen or what the outcome of the vote should happen. It's just only whether or not you should participate in it.
completely understand, and I appreciate that, and you know, we already know where this vote's gonna go, but for that statement, for that fact, I'm gonna say, I don't have any outcome in this. I don't have, again, this is beyond the council right now. This is up to the prosecution and the defense. And it's for them to have a fair and open and honest trial, and for whatever information should be out there to give that good, bad, ugly for the village or for the defense. I think that information should be out there, and I don't see myself as having any conflict in that, in providing the right information to be out there.
Jerry, can you last any comments?
So, yeah, just one, maybe two.
Sorry.
we've never asked Mike to abstain from any other votes on this subject. When we voted to spend the money for the forensic audits, 2 or 3 times when we spent money, we've never asked him, so I don't understand why now.
Are you asking me specifically?
I'm gonna ask all 3 of you because I know this was all decided beforehand. Because Eric was
It's
talking to
accusation.
Bill. I'm just from what I heard, Eric talked to Bill before the meeting, Eric talked to Dave before the meeting. We're gonna be in the sunshine, let's get it in the sunshine.
I'm within my rights to talk to both of them.
I understand that, but
Well, first,
I just wanna know if this was kind of a coordinated effort before the meeting started. That's my question.
I'll go first. And in the interest of transparency and to get it out there. When I first came on council, whenever that was, more than a year ago, and this topic came up for discussion. In several different times, Councilman Gunner was adamant that on one occasion that we had information. Or information that had been passed to us from somebody. And he wanted to know what that information was. And I sat here wondering, why was he even participating in the discussion? That was one of them. There have been other instances like that. I can't remember specifics, but I just felt that there were a lot of times when a topic relating to this came up that he should recuse himself and did not. And I didn't speak up. So for that's on me. And I didn't know where the discussion tonight was gonna go, but I had made up my mind before that if we came here to this topic, that I was gonna speak up again, or speak up for the first time. So that's my background and my concern was the conflict of interest. And that's where I'm at.
I'll say if I had a conflict of interest and I was trying to hide anything, I would have voted no on all of the audits and everything else in the past, which I didn't do.
See, I wasn't here for that.
Well,
I was here for.
it's been in the newspapers. It's obviously things that you should do as your homework, and you should have, you absolutely have every right to speak up as a council person because that is your job. But, again, I'm confident in the decisions that I've made. I have represented this village and utilized my position on this dais as, again, neutral and a representative of the village and the taxpayers.
I think Jerry brings up a good point. We didn't have a problem with Mike voting yes on spending the money. So we shouldn't have a problem now trying to get information. You think about it. It was okay for yes, spend the 20,000, whatever. I think the night that I was appointed to council, I was under the understanding because of precedents that when I was appointed, I would come right up to the bar, whatever you want to call it. Because that's what happened to Gwen Dusa.
There wasn't any consistency in the format.
Right.
I would agree.
But it happened on the night I was appointed, and it happened on the night you were going to vote on spending $20,000 to do more investigation or audit. I was expecting to vote on that. Because now I'm appointed council member,
Yeah. I don't know why you're pointing to me, but okay.
because
Yeah.
you're chairing the meeting,
Oh, okay.
okay?
I wasn't sure why you're looking directly at me. I understand.
I can look at Eric.
Well, you can look at me, but I wasn't part of that vote, so I wasn't on council at that
So
time.
there we go. Jerry, Mike,
You certainly can, I mean, I'm okay with that.
all 3 of you are on
You were
here.
there. That's true.
Every appointment, whoever's appointed to council came up for that meeting.
They did not seat me the night I was appointed.
They did not. They did Gwen Dusa, because I remember,
And I'm surprised I would come up here.
but you did.
Well, they told me I had to, so I did.
But anyways, it may be irrelevant, but we've accepted Mike's yes vote on spending money for the audit and furthering it. Why can't we accept it tonight to try to find information?
Okay, Jerry, I'm gonna answer your question.
Okay.
Number one, did I speak with Eric or Bill prior to tonight's meeting regarding the situation? Absolutely not.
Okay.
Did I go ahead and do some homework in it? In my world, it's called homework. When I went back and I said, how do I feel about this? Yes, I did. Did I contact Danielle this morning regarding what, as far as what does this constitute? Because in my eyes, I'm not a legal expert by any means. I wanted to know, first of all, does this go to closed sessions? Danielle, did I talk to you about that this morning?
Yes.
Yes. I also asked her, is this something, do we know what this information is? She said, not exactly, but we can ask Dave tonight. And then I asked her, I said, is this something, because and this is how it appears to me, Jerry, is we are getting closer to what I would call in layman's terms, getting closer to going to court. Trial, thank you, going to trial. And that's why it became more pertinent to me at this time. I agree totally that Mike has participated in the other discussions. Some of them I was comfortable with and some I personally was not comfortable with. Did I speak up against it? No, I did not. But because we are becoming closer to trial and I look at this as part of going that direction, that's why I was asking about the appearance. And Dave, you said it the best way, because I certainly did that, was the appearance of conflict. And so that's where that came from me. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
I'm gonna see administrator. What do you think?
About you voting?
No, about providing that information as requested.
I'm like, I don't believe. Provided, so my personal opinion, I would release it. I don't, to me, I think, I don't know what it is. I'm not an attorney, but to me, whatever was used to create the final documents, I don't know that it's gonna be helpful to either side, but I would err on the side of sharing the information that's out there and being open moving forward. So that would be that's my personal opinion, yes. As the administrator, whatever you guys choose, I will support it.
Council's pleasure as you.
Would that be your recommendation if we requested it?
If you were, yeah, that's my,
Thank you.
I was just gonna say, it seems like we're thinking that this information is gonna prove guilty or not guilty. That's the perception I'm getting. And it's not saying she's guilty or she's not guilty.
Your perception for me is wrong.
Okay.
I look at,
Then what would we hide?
I'm not saying that there is anything to hide. That's not where my discussion, that's not where I'm going with this. Mine is simply the appearance of a conflict. That's all mine is. It's not whether you vote or how you vote, Mike. That's not it. Mine is just the conflict. The voting, I look at this as two separate entities. Maybe that's not making sense. I look at it as, first of all, with Mike voting or not voting, regardless. But then there's a separate vote, which is the motion that you had made. I don't have a preference with Mike votes or, I mean, whatever he votes is his vote. I just, again, going back to the conflicts of interest and because it's getting closer to trial.
Are you saying we're gonna vote on whether he can vote?
No, that's not what we're doing. That's not what the motion on the floor is.
Well, you're right.
No, but what I understood Dave to say is that council could make a comment regarding the recusal of someone recusing themselves. Is that correct, Dave?
Yes, the
Yeah.
individual council members can voice their opinion and make the request.
That's what he did, that's what I did. And now, what I'm hearing Mike say is he is going to vote, and that is his decision to make, as pointed out. And if he's going to vote, that's the decision he's making. I don't have any say-so of that. So now, what we're doing now is we are simply discussing the vote, the last comments about, are we gonna, last comments anybody wants to say. So we are not voting on Mike at all. That is not at all. Are there any other comments regarding the motion that is on the floor? Okay, seeing none. Lisa, are you ready?
Right.
Okay.
Jerry,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Eric,
No,
Mike,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes, and that motion has passed. Let's go down to action item number 2, please.
Just as a,
Oh, my apologies, yes.
so what I will do is I will communicate with Mr. Fleming. What the council's decision is, and that he can fully respond to the subpoena and provide all the documents that are responsive to the subpoena. And I will make sure that Danielle gets a copy of that letter.
Sounds great, thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, action item number 2, to approve the lease agreement with Gates for the brush site. Danielle, is there anything that you would like to address at this time?
This is a lease renewal. The current one expires in April of this year. There is a slight increase to the lease payment. We're currently paying $2,000 a year. The lease payment would go up to $2,250. And then I do just want to make sure, I know I put it in the report, but just want to be clear that if we choose not to renew this, we would need to figure out where we're going to store brush. We would have to start chipping it because we don't have a site. I will tell you guys that Mr. Larry Pixley did tell me that he would be willing to work with us for a brush site as well. However, it's his property that is out on Pixley Highway, which would be an increased cost to us for trucking it out there in DPW wages. It is just north of Deerfield Highway off of Blissfield. So that's the only reason that we do appreciate him trying to work with us, but trying to keep that cost minimal because this is already expensive for us to pick up brush. So I am recommending that we renew this, but if you guys have specific questions, let me know.
I move council approve the lease agreement with Bruce Gates for a 3-year term with an annual lease payment of $2,250 per year for the brush burning site.
support that.
We have a motion as support. Any comments?
I have a question. Do you know right off the top of your head about what we spend per year for brush pickup?
The urban forestry budget, which includes brush pickup and leaf pickup, is about $160,000 a year.
160.
160.
160.
160.
Yes, and I forgot I was going to tell you guys to do that. I did, Brent got a quote for the brush before we burned it the last time to chip it and get caught up, and it was just under $20,000. So it is expensive to chip. I did want to make sure you knew we looked into that as well as.
And, you know, again, we do have a motion on the table, but, or a motion on the floor, but discussion of that, again. You know, do we want to continue something like this? Do we want to maybe look at purchasing property a little bit closer, but on the edge of town? Again, people don't understand, or people aren't now the knowledge or the know of what they actually pay or what they get with their taxes. And again, there's a lot of communities like municipalities that don't do this sort of thing. That stuff will sit, if you see leaves sit all winter, you know, they become frozen balls on the curb, you know, because they don't get picked up. But again, you get what you pay for, and we need to do a better job of getting people to understand $160,000 is a ton of money. That we provide these, you know, provide the residents to help clean up and maintain properties around here. So again, it's getting information out there, but is there a cheaper way to do it? Obviously, chipping is not. So I think we need to continue coming up with ideas or looking at alternatives, but this I think is the best solution for now.
Maybe I should add that to our goals.
Yeah.
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 Danielle, could you remind us when we burn this, because we've had some complaints about the burning. Are we doing it at night now, or?
So we work with the fire department to do it at night. 2 times ago. We actually just recently did a much smaller burn, which we're going to try to do. It did get rather large because we had tried to burn it a few times unsuccessfully. So we just burned a week ago. But it was, again, much smaller and we didn't have the issue. So we're going to try that. If it does get larger, then we would work with the fire department to do night.
More frequent
Yes.
versus the larger. Gotcha. Lisa, whenever you're ready, please.
Tim,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes,
Mike,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes. That motion is passed. Going on to action item number 3, approve the Blissfield Economic Development Strategy. Danielle, once again, please.
This plan was prepared as part of the final task from McKenna. And it is tied to the master plan that you guys recently adopted. This is a little bit more of a honed in or specific look at Blissfield and the sites that we want to focus on for economic development. It does identify our 10 priority sites. This has been reviewed by Planning Commission. They are recommending it for approval, as well as staff. If this is approved, it is a working document, so you guys will get annual reports on it. The planning commission and Laura and I will use it when we're working on economic development and recruiting businesses. And we'll give you guys updates, and as we hopefully get properties checked off the list, then we can always add more. But the recommendation is to keep it at 10 to kind of keep a good focus so that you don't get too far out there. But if you guys have specific questions about this plan, let me know. This is the final last piece to RRC. We will be working with MEDC to schedule our certification after this is adopted, which is a huge accomplishment for the village.
I move to approve the economic development strategy as presented.
I'll support.
Lisa, whenever you are ready, please.
Bill,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes,
Gwen, yes. Action item number 4, the resolution for Blissfield on Tap special liquor license application. I think things are pretty straightforward. We've had this before. Are there any questions or comments? Somebody has a motion on, please.
Move to approve the resolution recommending approval of the MLLCC special event liquor license for Blissfield on Tap to be held on August 10, 2024 at Clara Blackmeyer Park.
Support.
We have a motion and a support to the resolution recommending the approval of the MLLCC special event liquor license. Lisa, when you're ready.
Mike,
Yes.
Tim,
No.
Eric,
yes,
Jerry,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Gwen, yes. That motion has passed. Action item number 5, please, to approve the partnership with the Lenawee County Great Start Collaborative on Story Walk project. So Danielle has listed the background brief, and she did speak about this at our Parks and Rec meeting. She also supplied us with the graphics, which were much appreciated, Danielle, for the story walk, the proposed plans, the example, the walk over and under. She has talked with the DPW. They do not see any specific concerns with this. Danielle, anything you'd like to add?
I just this would be a partnership, so the signs, Great Start received a grant that would install the signs, and the grant includes some maintenance on these. They would change out the children's books. They would work with the library, the Schultz Holmes Library and us to do that about quarterly. So if we had something specific we wanted to focus on, we could let them know that. And then if something were to happen, we would just give them a call and let them know that something needed to be replaced. The Parks and Rec Board did review this and recommend it, and it's being proposed to go along at Bachmeyer Little League by the Boundless Playground.
Anyone have any questions for Danielle?
I do. Does the collaborative take care of the maintenance, or will the village take care of the maintenance and get reimbursed through the grant?
They will take care of the maintenance.
Thank you.
So the role or responsibility of the village we would need to be willing to accept the pallet deliveries for the signs. And then they are asking for help actually installing them, just having somebody there to like help hold them, keep them level. Maybe a couple of volunteers, and we talked at Parks and Rec level about bringing in some volunteers, and I think that the library would partner with them as well.
Is this specifically for the Bachmeyer Boundless Playground?
It could go anywhere within the village, but we looked at the different locations and we picked that because it is already accessible for all ages, and we didn't want to put it down at the park where it floods, where it'd be open year round.
That's what I was going with that.
So there was a little bit of strategy in picking that location.
If there are no other questions, looking for a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the partnership with Lenawee County Great Start Collaborative to install a story walk in Bachmeyer Road.
Support.
We have a motion and support to approve the partnership with Lenawee County Great Start Collaborative on Story Walk project. Lisa, please.
Hold on, explain how this works, because it's like, it's a book and it's split in pages and it's any book that's chosen. Or they specifically create these to fill out however many signs there are, or I guess
Danielle, go ahead. I'll let you.
each
They-
page is different, right?
They purchased the rights to already published children's books. And these are becoming popular, but there is still a limited number of children's books. I don't know what all is on that list, but they would have to purchase those. So the first sign would include instructions, how the story walk works, what you do. And then signs 2 through 17, each would have 2 pages of a children's book on each board. And then in addition to the kids would, or families, whoever, they would read the couple pages and then they move on. In addition to that, the signs may have like an activity associated with it. So it may say something, they read the 2 pages and then it may say, count your steps to the next sign. And then the kid would count their steps if they wanted. They'd go on and they'd read the next 2 pages. And then it would say, skip from here to the next sign or whatever. Again, I'm giving you very vague, but whatever it says. And then they would go through and finish. The last sign board, the 18th one would have, it can have a couple different things, but maybe a QR code that says scan this and check in and tell us you completed it, or check in with us online and take a selfie. And it's really intended to be how many people are using it to provide feedback to the stories, is really what the final board is for.
So it's legitimately like an 18-page book, we can't just take some random, the Giving Tree or something and piece it in there. It's kind of written to fit the 18 pages itself, and
it's the Glenway Great Start Collaborative. It's those folks, Mike, that make those decisions.
and again, free stuff is always great, but the maintenance always falls back on us. And again, I think within a specific amount of time, it's gonna be forgotten. We're gonna have a bunch of stands with blank pages or ratty pages or whatever. And unfortunately, that's just something we need to do better of. And that's why I'm not in favor. I always like free things and free gifts, but again, if down the line, the things fade out and fat out, and I think we'll just have 18 signs that are kind of just standing there, but.
So that's fair. Danielle, what happens if in 7 years, it's not as popular as it is now? What did they do? Do they remove that stuff? Or does it stay here?
They would stay here until it's not usable or until we removed it.
And especially for concreting these things in, to me, I'm done with adding, and I think the town's done with adding, they want to maintain it. That's my point.
What, did they say how long they would take care of the maintenance? Is that spelled out in the grant?
I don't know, and I think the reason it's not is because I don't know that they know how long the grant funding will take, and then I'm not sure if they'll be able to get additional funding, so that's why they've not spelled out the time.
Are we the only community they're asking of this of?
No, the grant funding paid for 3-story walks, and they are placing those in communities throughout Lenawee County. I know Morenci is getting one, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember the other one.
But we do have a motion and, we have support. Any other comments at this time? Okay, Lisa, when you're ready then?
Mike,
No.
Eric,
Yes,
Tim,
No.
Bill,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Jerry,
No.
And I believe we have a 3-3, is that correct?
correct, yes.
Which would mean that that motion would be
pass fails.
failed, correct? Thank you. Let's go on to item number 6, please, to the approval of the purchase and installation of utility poles. Danielle, would you like to address it, please?
This is in relation to the meter upgrade project, so the poles will house by themselves, they can't go on any existing infrastructure, we found out. But they would house the, I'm gonna call it the wrong thing, like the communication center that will pull all of the reads from the village of Blissfield for the meters. Yeah. There's the 4 locations because of redundancy, so if one goes down for some reason, then the other 3 are pulling, and then because not each one will hit the entire village, but we are recommending to approve this so that we can continue moving forward the meter replacement project.
There is 4 reading stations, is that correct? That's the reason for
Correct.
4 utility poles?
Yes,
How large are these poles, I guess? I'm assuming they're not.
they are,
40 footers.
Yeah,
are they 40?
yeah,
So 35 feet,
Probably put in the ground.
a little bit higher, or a little bit.
No different than what we currently have with other utility poles, yeah?
yes, it'll look like a power without power because the devices are slower.
And this company works with USG, right?
Yes. Yeah, so this company specifically is familiar with exactly what's needed for the devices. They work with USG.
Can't find any other company to get a competitive bid with, huh?
Brent tried reaching out to several, and we could not. He did talk to somebody, they could not do it in the time frame to keep the project moving forward, and did not give us a cost on it either because of that.
Anyone like to make the motion?
Move to approve the purchase and installation of 4 utility poles from GLIC Electric in the amount of $6,800.
Or Tim?
Any other further comment regarding the approval?
Yes, sorry, but,
That's fine.
so originally when we talked with the, salespeople, they originally said water tower, right? And
Yeah.
potentially 2 or 3 other sites, so, but now that's changed.
So the one is going at the water tower property, however, they're not gonna put it on top of the water tower because of maintenance. They said it would actually end up probably causing some trouble when they service the water tower. So it'll be on the property though,
Okay.
it'll be in the back corner.
Yeah,
behind
and-
it.
This will be our one fall swoop for the entire time as we buy the, well, 4 more phases of meters, right? We're doing 1 phase now, and this will not have to expand. We won't need 16 poles with 3 years.
No, the 4 that's our redundancy, that's what we'll need, that we would not need any more unless Blissfield grows outside of what we have now.
2 more quick things. Did we reach out to consumers?
Yes,
Extremely frustrating that they have a franchise with the village. They're absolutely uneasy to work with. We tried to get them in there to help with DDA, all things like that. Again,
They don't.
if they wanna be stewards of the village. They need to start representing us and working with us on this crap. Secondly, they talk about hand digging if we're within 4 feet. My fear is we've got fiber optics on a lot of these lines, DMP is out there, we've got gas, we've got everything else. What's it gonna cost us if we have to soft dig around these? That it's gonna greatly expand like $600 to $800. And my fear is a lot of these locations look like they have utilities in that area.
I know Brent and Nick with USG specific, and I know the sites Brent and I went around and looked at them, but they specifically look to try to avoid that as much as possible. So the one is in the right of way, however, it's between the power stopped there. I'm not sure about fiber. I'd have to double check, but I guess the whole gist of that is I do know that they try to factor that in as much as possible.
So if we misdig or whatever and say, okay, 4 feet over here, this is out of it.
And yeah, and we can move those a little bit in either direction to try to make that work.
I just don't wanna wind up coming and saying we spent $20,000 on the poles when we were budgeting 68 there. So that's my only issue.
Yes, and USG specifically said like, if there's something here, we'll just, and we need to move it over 3 feet, then that's what we will do. And we're still gonna get our range as long as we're within that area.
All the more reason for a back truck.
Any other comments, guys?
No, thank you.
Lisa, when you are ready, please. Eric,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Gwen, yes. Going down to reports, we have our DDA report, Parks and Rec report, the water treatment plant, as well as the building and planning from the zoning administrator. Anyone have any comments on any of the reports at this time? Maddie's right here, she can answer anything you need. I don't want to rush us along, but seeing none, is it okay to go into council discussion? Okay. Anyone have anything that they'd like to discuss at this time?
I do real quickly, sorry, it sounds like there's a lot of concerns on the water, the odor. I think, again, if we have to get this in the advance, or if we have to pay for you provided me very clearly from Nora what the issue is with our water right now, again, due to water runoff, end of the season. It's much like the algae bloom, that sort of thing. There's a bacteria that is very, very minute. It's causing the odor. We do continuous testing in there. The water is clean, the water is safe. I don't care if we have to start saying, I'll bottle up the water and I'll take it to Toledo to do some testing and bring it back to prove again that the water is safe. Yes, it's frustrating, but also do we want to build a $8 million reservoir and tap more onto the taxpayers' backs of trying to provide, again, cleaner, it's not even cleaner water, it's just, quote, better water, but again, it's that transparency thing. We need to get that information out to the public so that the public is in the know of why this stuff is going on. And again, if we can put that on the website, if we have to put it in the advance, I don't care. It's worth getting that information out there so that the rumors, the misinformation, that sort of thing is not there. Again, the water, I'll admit the water does have an odor. It smells like dirt sometimes, tastes like it. You get a little hint of it. Some people taste it, some people smell it, some don't. But again, the water is safe. We continuously test it. It's drawn off the surface. It's very challenging and it's very costly. But again, it's what we have right now and what we're trying to do. So again, we can either pay more for water or we can make it work and try to get the public to understand why it's the way, but that it is safe.
And I do have some information drafted, I'm gonna say drafted, but I sent it to Nora, Brent, and Lisa for just one final review, make sure I'm not missing anything at all. And then I will be sharing that information, and that includes what I sent to you guys, Mike, and then plus quite a bit of additional, so
I
I'm
love
hoping.
the slideshow on our website. I think, again, for that pertinent stuff, we can pop that on there. Mandy, whoever can put that on there super quick and we can say, see the website, this is what's going on and this is the proper information.
So that should be out, I would think, tomorrow or Wednesday at the
Thank you.
latest.
Jerry, anything that you'd like to say at this time?
No. Not right.
Eric,
I'm good.
Ken,
No,
Bill,
Yeah, I will not be here on the next meeting, March 11th.
okay. Thank you. We'll see no other council discussion, public comment for the end of the meeting, please. Just state your name. Thank you.
My name is Charles Stidniga. I live on 209 Sherman Street. May I ask what the meters read on number 6? What do those meters read that we're putting some money into?
So
The meter replacement
it'll, yeah,
project,
it'll read the water meter, so DPW gentlemen will have to walk every single house as we replace these meters.
Okay.
It'll digitally download and upload into our computer system. And again, that's the kind of stuff that potentially saves us money over the cost we get. It's a big investment now. But it's not trying to be Ann Arbor, it's trying to be in the times of the technology. And it's gonna allow our DPW employees to do other things rather than read meters, which takes approximately, 40 hours for one person. I mean, so it's gonna be more accurate. And
I have a little sign on the side of my house that my wife put up about not putting any electronic transmission to a tower for the electric company. So I take it that there will be a electronic transmission from my house to that tower. She's very particular. Now, let's see.
does consumers currently, do they have a meter on your residence that will radio transmit to a tower?
No, they come to my house because of that, to go and read the meter. But they did put a new meter on. And hopefully that's what they did. On number 4, I was reading the comment that says, about the, August 10th, craft beer festival, and then it says later on, special liquor license. Is there a difference between craft beer and liquor? And what can be judged or purchased there? That's just a question that came up in my
I think
mind.
the liquor license is just a generic
generic
term.
term.
For anything with alcohol.
Yes. It's the Liquor Control Commission.
But
That's
to me, when you say liquor,
You
it's
think-
more than 8%.
the specific application states beer specifically.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you for that little bit of an understanding, better understanding. I think that's about all I can think of right now. Except, who has read, I think it's Scott Adams or Adam Scott, Losers Think, what might be good in the next 5 years will cost us double to replace it in 10. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone else at this time, please?
Thank Asia for our RC, actually, for that step closer, and Asia's been the one working on that, right? She got that and I'm portions of that, so thank you, Asia.
Looking for someone to make the motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn at 8:17 p.m.
Yeah, fine.
Lisa, when you are ready.
Carrie?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Gwen?
Yeah. Meeting is adjourned.